So in all of the work that we've done in the last 4 or 5 years, really doing a deep dive into the effective schools research, and especially as it applies to mathematics instruction, we've really discovered, I wouldn't say discovered, but we've determined that there are 6 criteria for highly effective lesson design and in mathematics. And one of the things I want to be clear about here is I'm not a big believer in what I would call programmatic teaching. That is, you take a book and you just follow it exactly like it is. You know, I think we always want to own our lesson design as teachers and kind of think about what works best for our students. However, I do think that there's this idea of what's called loose tight, that there are some things we just need to do. They're not an option. And everything I'm about to talk about, we know beyond a shadow of a doubt, if you do these things, they'll significantly impact student learning. So let's just get started. The first one I want to talk about is actually, believe it or not, the criteria, for lack of a better way to think about it, is called the why of the lesson. I know that sounds so simple, but what it means is that students come to the lesson, the mathematics lesson, not to learn to do a bunch of math problems, but rather to learn a standard. So we have to make that standard really clear. And I talk a lot about the difference between relevant mathematics and meaningful mathematics. Now, relevant mathematics is that the mathematics is important. It represents an important learning. So, for example, why I have to learn about how to divide a fraction by a number greater than or less than 1. I have to learn today about how to demonstrate understanding of equivalent expressions. I have to learn today about how to build a quadratic function. Really? Really? Why are those things so important? You know, why is that so relevant? You're going to take an entire lesson to teach that to me today. And what happens is most math lessons just sort of fall out of the sky. They just start. And kids are like, what? What's going on here? Why is this what we're talking about today? So there's evidence now that if math teachers will take the time sometime during the lesson, you know, I've had some teachers tell me, Tim, I don't want to do this right up front, because if I do this at the start of the lesson, you know, I'm going to kind of give away the store of what I really want to accomplish today. And I'm like, okay, fine. But at some point during the lesson, you've got to let them know the reason you're in this today is to learn this I can statement, this standard. Everything's driven by the standard. And but from a relevancy point of view, what this first criteria means is, when I say you explain the why of the standard to the students, is called context, that you place the problem into context. So I think the best thing we can do as math teachers or teachers of mathematics is to think of our if I'm a second grade teacher, think about your year as a story. So my teaching of mathematics this year, I'm teaching you a story, and there's a story arc. And if I'm teaching Algebra 1, it's a story, and I'm teaching you a story arc of Algebra 1 throughout the year. And the question is, where am I at in that story today? Well, so we have an obligation every day to say, here's where we've been, and maybe even have the kids brainstorm. What have we been working on so far in this unit? Well, do you remember studying this from 2nd grade? Do you remember studying this from 7th grade math? You connect it back, and you say, and well, here's where we're going. So it's a context. Here's where we've been. You know, next Friday, this is what we're going to be working on. Or next year, this is what you'll be asked to do. But in order to connect these two, we're doing this today. So there's this framing of the lesson every single day, almost to the point where the kids are going, really? Yeah, really. You need to. This is so essential that we do this. And I would say this: there's evidence that if you want kids to persevere during a lesson, get ready for this. And I talk about this in materials that we write and stuff, but that if you want them to persevere during the lesson, one of the best things you can do is halfway through the lesson or 2/3 through the lesson. And with kindergarten and 1st grade kids, you would probably do this orally. With 2nd grade on up, you can do it in writing. But you ask the kids to stop what they're doing, and right above the math problem you're having them work on, you have them write the standard that they are learning that day. And you remind them, that's why I'm asking you to do this problem. It actually will cause them to persevere longer through the problem. I'm like, that is amazing to me. So I just would ask, 1, is there a clear declaration of the standard I'm learning? And 2, is it framed in a context of why I'm learning this today in terms of the mathematical story?